This is a federal investigation.
The water was so clear it was like swimming in light itself, a turquoise pane of glass separating the sun-drenched world from a quieter, cooler one below. The infinity pool at the Sapphire Cove Resort bled into the vast, blue expanse of the Pacific, a seamless merger of human-made luxury and natural wonder. For Special Agent Sarah Jenkins, perched on the edge of a plush lounge chair, the view was a postcard she was desperately trying to step into. For 4 days, this was the fortress. 4 days where the only alarms would be for sunrise and the only briefings would be on the day's snorkeling schedule. Her son, Leo, was a blur of joyful motion in the shallow end, his 6-year-old body creating tiny tsunamis that lapped against the pristine tiles. His laughter, a sound so pure it could cut through the fog of the darkest interrogation room, was the only soundtrack she wanted to hear. She adjusted the lace upside of her white one-piece swimsuit, a garment that managed to be both elegant and resilient, much like the woman wearing it. This vacation was a promise she had made to herself and to him, a vow written in the sand between two brutal cases that had left the metallic taste of fear and violence in her mouth. And before we dive into the moment this perfect paradise shattered, if you're looking for a channel where the calmest surfaces hide the most powerful currents, you're in the right place. If you're ready for a story of justice that feels as good as a cold drink on a hot day, consider subscribing. Your support is what allows us to bring these stories to life. Now, let's get back to the pool. The first crack in the facade wasn't a sound, but a silence, the gentle hum of vacation bliss, the low chatter, the clinking glasses, the rustle of palm fronds, was severed by a violent, explosive espionage, a cannonball, executed with aggressive, showboating force. The resulting wave wasn't the playful lap of a child's jump, it was a wall of water that rose up and crashed over Leo, swallowing his small form entirely. For one heart-stopping second, he disappeared beneath the churning surface. Sarah was on her feet before he re-emerged, her body moving with a fluid, unthinking grace that was drilled into her muscle memory. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a primal drumbeat of protection. Leo surfaced, gasping and sputtering, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. The light in his eyes had been momentarily extinguished, replaced by a film of tears and confusion, and then came the laughter, loud, booming, and devoid of any warmth. Two young men, maybe 18 or 19, broke the surface like sea monsters from a myth. They were broad-shouldered and athletic, their bodies honed in gyms and on fields. Their confidence a fortress built by privilege and a lifetime of getting their way. They wore their high school varsity jackets, one a deep, arrogant blue, the other a bright warning sign yellow, over their swim trunks, a deliberate declaration of their tribe. "Hey, watch where you're floating, shrimp." The one in the blue jacket barked, his voice a nasal sneer. He had a strong jaw that seemed to lead his entire body, a chin that was always looking for a fight. His companion in yellow just smirked, a lazy, condescending curl of his lip as he pushed his wet, spiky hair back from his forehead. Sarah was at the water's edge in 3 swift, silent strides. Her voice, when it came, was low and controlled, a steel cable wrapped in velvet. It cut through their laughter with the precision of a scalpel. "The shallow end is for children. You need to be more careful." A blue jacket turned his gaze on her, and it was a physical violation. His eyes, a pale, watery blue, scanned her from head to toe, dismissing her, categorizing her as irrelevant. "It's a public pool, lady," he said, loading the last word with contempt. "If the kid can't handle a little water, maybe he should be in the kiddie pool." "Oh wait," he chuckled, a harsh, grating sound. "This is the kiddie pool. The entire shallow end is designated for families." Sarah replied, her tone still even, but a storm was gathering behind her storm gray eyes. She didn't break his gaze. She held out a hand, and Leo swam to her, clinging to her leg, his small body trembling against hers. The feel of his fear ignited something cold and furious within her. "I'm asking you once. Be mindful of others." Their response was a symphony of disrespect. They simply turned their backs on her, a unified, deliberate act that said she was not worth another second of their time. They resumed their game of catch, but it had changed. The football was now a weapon, thrown with brutal, whipping force, zipping past the heads of sunbathers who flinched and looked away, unwilling to challenge the disruption. Sarah led Leo back to their chairs, her movements economical and tight. She wrapped him in a thick, white towel, her hands gentle on his shoulders, a stark contrast to the tension in her jaw. "You okay, my brave boy?" she whispered, her voice soft only for him. He looked up at her, his big, brown eyes wide with a hurt that went deeper than the surprise of the water. "They're mean, Mommy." "Why are they so mean?" "A lot of people are mean when they're empty inside." "Leo," she said, smoothing his damp hair. "But listen to me. We are not going to let their emptiness fill us up. We are full of light. We are stronger than their meanness." She believed every word. Her life was a testament to building fortresses of light in a world that often preferred the dark. For the next hour, the boys were a corrosive presence. They migrated to the jacuzzi, their raucous voices and crude jokes polluting the steamy air. They snapped their fingers at waitstaff, ordering expensive, fruity drinks with a condescension that made Sarah's skin crawl. She watched them not with the nervous energy of a victim, but with the cold, analytical focus of her profession. She was profiling them. The pack mentality, the performative aggression, the way their confidence was entirely dependent on the submission of those around them. They were classic bullies, a type she knew intimately. She'd seen their kind in schoolyards, in corporate boardrooms, and in the eyes of corrupt officials. The setting was just more expensive. The final provocation was a masterpiece of casual cruelty. Leo, feeling emboldened by his mother's presence and the resilience of childhood, had ventured back to the water's edge with his most prized possession, a small, well-loved astronaut action figure, Commander Zoom. He was lost in a narrative of interstellar exploration, making the figure dive and swoop through the air in a silent, heroic ballad. The football, thrown with careless, brutal force by Yellow Jacket, was a missile off its course. It didn't just sail past, it slammed directly into Leo's outstretched hand. The plastic astronaut was launched from his grip, sailing in a high, tragic arc before plunging into the deep end. It sank immediately, a tiny speck of white and red swallowed by the deep blue. The sound Leo made was not a cry. It was a short, sharp gasp of loss, as if the air had been punched from his lungs. Then his face crumpled. The dam broke and silent, shuddering sobs racked his small frame. That was the line. Not just crossed, but obliterated. Sarah stood up. The movement was not hurried. It was deliberate, final. The casual vacationer was gone. In her place was something else entirely. She walked towards the two young men, who were high-fiving, having retrieved their ball. The air around her seemed to grow cold and still. "You hit my son, and you destroyed his toy," she said. Her voice was different now. The velvet was gone. Only the steel remained. Blue Jacket turned, his expression a mask of profound annoyance. "So, it's a $5 piece of plastic. Tell him Daddy will buy him a new one." "Oh, that's right," he added, the smirk returning, wider and more venomous than before. "No, Daddy, guess you'll have to." The cruelty was calculated, aimed at what he assumed was her weakest point. It missed its mark and struck Flint instead. "My son was sitting still. You were reckless and destructive," she stated, the words like chips of ice. "You will apologize to him now." He took a step forward, invading her personal space, using his height and bulk to intimidate. He loomed over her, his breath smelling faintly of chlorine and cheap beer. "Or what? You're gonna cry? You're gonna call the manager? Go ahead, make my day. My dad is on the board of this resort. He plays golf with the owner. They're not gonna do a damn thing. So why don't you do us all a favor, take your bastard kid and your single mom drama," he said, his leer once again dragging over her swimsuit, "and find a Motel 6 somewhere. You're cramping our style." The silence that fell was absolute. You could hear the hum of the pool filter, the distant cry of a seagull. Every eye was on them. The couple with the margaritas had frozen. The waitress had stopped. Tray in hand, they were all witnesses, and they were all for now silent. Sarah didn't move a muscle. She didn't step back. She looked from one smug, entitled face to the other, and then she did something that unnerved them more than any shout could have. A small, cold, almost imperceptible smile touched the corners of her mouth. It was the smile of a chess master whose opponent has just walked directly into a checkmate they were too blind to see. The civilian facade, the mom just trying to have a nice vacation, shattered completely. The real Sarah Jenkins, the woman who had stared down human traffickers and calmly negotiated with hostage takers, surfaced. Her posture shifted from defensive to authoritative. Her shoulders squared, her spine straightened, and her gaze solidified into something unyielding and ancient. "You think this is about a manager?" she asked, her voice dropping to a deadly, conversational calm. "You think this is about a resort policy or a cheap toy?" A blue jacket, confused by her reaction, puffed out his chest, trying to reclaim the moment. I think you're a sad, lonely woman who's embarrassed she can't keep her kid in line or afford to be here. We get it. It's pathetic. The words hung in the air, toxic and foul. You are correct about one thing, Sarah said, her voice now rising, clear and sharp, carrying to every corner of the pool deck. It was a voice used to giving commands that were obeyed. I am a single mother, and protecting my son is the most important, most sacred duty of my life. It is a duty I would die for, but it is not my only duty, because she turned, her movements fluid and precise, and walked back to her lounge chair. The entire audience watched, mesmerized. The bullies watched, their sneers faltering, replaced by a flicker of confusion. This wasn't following the script. She wasn't retreating. She was rearming. She picked up the small, waterproof dry bag from beside her chair. She unzipped it slowly, the sound unnaturally loud in the silence. She reached inside and pulled out not a phone, not a tube of sunscreen, but a slim black leather wallet. With a motion that was both casual and utterly momentous, she flipped it open. The gold FBI shield caught the full force of the afternoon sun. It didn't just gleam, it blazed. It was a small sun itself, a medallion of absolute authority. The bold, black letters Federal Bureau of Investigation were unmistakable, a declaration that transcended local politics, parental wealth, and high school hierarchies. She held it up, her arm steady, her gaze locked on the two young men. My name is Special Agent Sarah Jenkins, she said, her voice flat, professional, and devoid of all emotion. It was the voice of the law itself, Federal Bureau of Investigation. And by intentionally harassing, attempting to intimidate, and physically interfering with a federal officer during her period of authorized rest, you have just committed a federal offense. The transformation was instantaneous and catastrophic. For them, the color drained from Blue Jacket's face so completely he looked like a marble statue. His jaw unhinged, his eyes bulging with a terror so profound it was almost religious. The bully was gone, replaced by a terrified child who had just realized he'd been pulling the tail of a tiger. Yellow Jacket stumbled backward a step, his hands coming up in a universal gesture of surrender, his mouth agape. The varsity jackets, their symbols of local dominance, suddenly looked like the most ridiculous, pathetic costumes in the world. The pool deck was a frozen diorama of shock. The previously silent witnesses were now openly gaping, their vacations instantly upgraded with a story they would tell for years. We didn't know, Blue Jacket stammered, his voice a broken, reedy thing. That, Sarah replied, her tone cutting, is the definition of undercover. You are not supposed to know. But your relentless arrogance and your pathological need to belittle a mother and her child have compelled me to end my cover. Now, you will apologize to my son. Sincerely. And then you will sit down on those chairs. You will not speak, and you will not move until I decide what happens next. Do you understand the instructions? They nodded frantically, a pair of bobbleheads. They practically tripped over each other in their rush to get to Leo, who was still by the chairs watching his mother with an expression of pure, unadulterated awe. We're sorry. We're so sorry, kid. Blue Jacket blurted out, his eyes fixed on the ground. Please, we didn't mean it. We'll get you a new toy. We'll get you 10. Yellow Jacket whined, his voice trembling on the edge of tears. Sarah looked down at her son. Leo, the choice is yours. Do you accept their apology? Leo, infused with a newfound courage from the shield of his mother's power, looked at the two broken bullies. He considered it seriously, then gave a firm, decisive nod. Yes, Mommy, I accept. Good man, she said softly, her voice warming for only a fraction of a second for him. Then it went cold again as she addressed the boys. No, sit. Silence. They scuttled to the indicated lounge chairs and sat down, ramrods straight, their hands on their knees, staring at their feet like prisoners on death row. The public humiliation was a palpable force. Sarah then picked up the resort phone. She didn't dial 911. She dialed the front desk. Yes, hello. This is Sarah Jenkins in room 412. I need you to connect me immediately with the head of resort security, please. She waited, her gaze a laser beam keeping the two boys pinned in place. Yes, hello. This is Special Agent Jenkins, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I have a code 11 at the main pool. I have 2 individuals in custody for interference. I need your team here immediately. Yes, thank you. The term code 11 and custody hung in the air, elevating the situation to another level of seriousness. Within 2 minutes, not just 1 or 2, but a team of 4 security personnel, led by a grim-faced man in a sharp suit. The director of security himself arrived at a jog. Sarah met them holding up her badge. A quick, quiet, professional conversation ensued. The director's eyes widened as he looked from the badge to the 2 petrified teenagers, then to the small boy wrapped in a towel. He nodded, his face a mask of grave understanding. The walk of shame that followed was a masterpiece of poetic justice. The 2 bullies, in their dripping swim trunks and now sodden, pathetic-looking varsity jackets, were not merely asked to leave. They were formally escorted by a phalanx of security through the heart of the resort. Every step was a public execution of their reputation. Guests lowered their sunglasses to watch the procession. The boys didn't look up, their faces burning with a shame that would likely leave a permanent scar. A wave of relieved applause broke out, starting with the couple who had been too scared to speak up, then spreading across the pool deck. It was applause for justice for the underdog, for the moment when the bad guys actually lost. Sarah acknowledged it with a slight, professional nod, but her focus was already elsewhere. The moment the bullies were out of sight, she turned her back on the crowd and knelt before Leo, the formidable agent dissolving once more into only his mother. She cupped his face in her hands. "Are you really, truly okay, my love? In your heart?" Leo launched himself into her arms, burying his face in her neck. "You're a superhero," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You're Commander Zoom's boss." She held him tight, her eyes closed, breathing in the scent of his hair. Chlorine and innocence. This was the balance, the darkness she waded through to keep the world safe for his light. This moment of being his hero was worth more than any commendation, any successful prosecution. Later, as they ate dinner under a canopy of stars, the resort manager, a flustered man in a white linen suit, approached their table. He offered profuse apologies, complimentary everything, and a future stay on the house. "Your generosity is noted but unnecessary," Sarah said, her tone polite but firm. "The situation has been resolved through the proper channels. The young men's families, they are very connected." The manager whispered, leaning in. "They are demanding a meeting with you. They are threatening lawsuits." Sarah took a slow sip of her water, her gaze steady. "They are welcome to demand, and they are welcome to sue. But I would strongly advise their legal counsel to consider the discovery process of a federal lawsuit for harassment and interference. Every text message, every email, every social media post those boys have ever made would become part of the public record. Their local connections would be a footnote in a federal investigation. I assure you, my report on this incident is far more damaging to their future than any tantrum their parents can throw. Do pass that along." The manager paled and nodded vigorously. "Of course, Agent Jenkins, absolutely. Enjoy your dessert." The next morning, the family of the bullies was gone. Checked out before sunrise, a piece had returned to Sapphire Cove. That afternoon, a large, beautifully wrapped package arrived at their room. Inside was not just one new astronaut, but the entire top of the line Galactic Explorers playset, with a note signed by the resort management. But the real victory for Leo was when the head of maintenance himself, a kind-eyed man, appeared at their door holding a net. After 20 minutes of diving, he had found the original Commander Zoom, a little faded, but a hero returned from the depths. On their last evening, as Sarah packed, Leo held both astronauts in his hands. "Mom," he asked, his voice small and serious. "Is being a superhero scary?" Sarah sat beside him on the bed. "Sometimes, baby. But you know what makes it not scary?" "What?" "Knowing exactly what I'm fighting for," she said, tapping a finger gently on his chest, right over his heart. "It's always for this." She looked out at the starlit ocean, the pool now calm and reflective. This vacation had become more than an escape. It had been a reclamation, a reminder that the woman in the suit and the mom in the swimsuit were not two different people. They were a singular, formidable force, a protector, a guardian, a mother whose love was, quite literally, backed by the full force of the law. It was a conclusion that satisfies that deep, human craving for justice, for the underdog to win, and for a mother's love to be the most powerful force in the room. And it leaves me with a question I love asking, because it truly connects us all in this amazing community. From which part of the country are you watching this video? Are you in the sunny beaches of California, the bustling cities of the East Coast, the wide open plains of the Midwest, or somewhere in the beautiful South? Let me know in the comments below. Just drop a hello from your state or city. I read every single one and I love feeling how far and wide this community stretches.